Okay. As Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Bava Metzia Daf Ayin Pei Aleph 81, and we're going to start by the just to keep you up to date here, up to speed. Just to review the Mishnah on Ayin Amid Beis, on Pei Amid Beis. The Mishnah said over here, Kol Ha'umanim. Let's say a worker, any type of. Let's say you give your clothing to a dry cleaner, okay? And he's supposed to clean. Now, what is he when he's watching your clothing? What is he, a shomer chinam, a shomer sachar, or a borrower? So the Mishnah says he's a shomer sachar hain. That means and therefore he's responsible if it gets stolen or lost, whatever it is, he's responsible on Geneva. Because he has a job and you're going to pay him the money to clean your suit. And when he's finished with that, so as long as he's holding on to your suit, he's a shomer sachar, and if it's stolen, he has to replace your suit. The kulan she'amru, but if the job is finished and they call the owner of the suit and said tula shalcha, take what belongs to you, v'havei ma'is, and bring me money. My job is finished. I'm not working with your suit anymore. I'm not cleaning. The job is done. Then they go down a notch and they're shomer chinam. They're free watchmen, and therefore they're not obligated if the item gets stolen. They won't be held liable if the item gets stolen. Shmor li ve'eshmalach. Let's say somebody says to you, watch my item, and I'll watch your item. So they're both each doing each other a favor. So basically, they're paying each other back for watching items. So then each one is a shomer sachar. Each one is considered a paid watchman. You don't have to get paid in money. You can get paid in somebody else doing you a favor, and therefore you're called a paid watchman. The Mishnah continues, Shomer li v'amalei hanach lefonai. Guy said, watch for me. Watch this for me. And the person that you deposited the item said, just put it down in front of me. So by saying hanach lefonai, he is considered a shomer chinam, because he agreed to watch it by saying, okay, you could leave it here, no problem. Obviously, he's not a paid watchman. He's letting you watch it. He's letting you watch it for free. He's saying, I'm going to watch it, but for free, not taking full responsibility if anything happens. Okay, this is the first part of the Mishnah. Let's go down to where we are. So we learned the story. Let's say the story of the dry cleaner. The guy called you up and said, take your suit and bring me the money. So if the guy said, take your suit and bring me the money, he's a shomer chinam. Hi, Alan. We just began. We're on the bottom of Pei Amid Beis. Okay, so we're discussing over here. You have a suit by a dry cleaner, and so as long as the suit is being cleaned, the dry cleaner has a din of a shomer sachar, a paid watchman, because he has a job to do, and he's going to get paid for cleaning your suit. But if the job is finished, and then he calls you up and says, Tula shalcha v'havi mois, take what belongs to you and bring me the money, he reverts back to a shomer chinam. Now he's a free watchman because the job is over. Tanan Hasan, we learned over there. Amalai shoyel shalach. Let's say a borrower, right? You want to borrow. Somebody wants to borrow an item from the lender. Let's say he wants to borrow a bicycle from the lender, and he says, "Shalach, send the bicycle with my shaliach." So ushalacha, and the lender followed through on the instructions of the borrower and sent it with the shliach umesa. And even before the borrower got a chance to receive the bicycle, or let's say it was an animal, the animal died. So then a shoyel, a borrower, is liable on all mishaps. So therefore, chayev, the borrower is liable, because as soon as the lender followed through on the instructions of the borrower and sent the animal, so then the borrower is held responsible no matter what happens to the animal. Let's say it comes time to return the animal, okay? And the borrower and the lender says, send it back to me. So as soon as the borrower follows through and sends it back to the lender based on his instructions, so he's no more held responsible, even though the lender did not receive back his animal. So if the animal dies along the way as it's being returned to the lender, the borrower is not responsible. So the Gemara says, Amar Rafman bar Papa, Amar Rav Chizda. Rafman bar Papa said in the name of Rav Chizda, Loi Shanu, when did we hold that the borrower is held still responsible? Ella b'shechzira b'soichi meishi ilta. Only if he returned it during the time of the borrowing period. Let's say he returned it early. He borrowed the animal for 30 days, and after 25 days, he returned it. So then, as long as the lender didn't receive his animal, the borrower is held liable, right? Now, after the borrowing term, automatically potter. Here, you hear this? You borrow an animal, and you said, I'm going to use it for 30 days. Day 31, are you still considered a borrower, although you didn't return it to the lender? The answer is no. You're not a borrower anymore. And therefore you don't have the responsibilities of a borrower. A borrower is responsible on any mishap that happens to the animal. But since this is the end of the term, and now you're holding on to the animal beyond the original borrowing period, so therefore you're not held reliable. So just by saying the period is over, you're not held reliable. So now the Gemara is going to ask a question from this Mishnah. We see that your responsibility goes off by itself. Moshe Rav Nachman bar Papa, Rav Nachman Papa asked a question on his brother, maybe Rachman bar Papa. He asked a question from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says that the dry cleaner he's not anymore considered a shomer sacha only if he said, if he told the owner, come take what belongs to you and bring me the money. Only then you become a shomer chinam. But if he didn't say anything, we go to Amud Aleph, ha gamartiv, if you just told him I finished, or gamartiv, or if the job ended, by itself, he will still remain the shomer sacha. So you still remain the shomer sacha. So how is it by a borrower, when the term ends, Rafam bar Papa said, a borrower is not a borrower anymore. He just has to make sure that the lender gets his item back, but he's not a borrower. Because if he only had a right to use it for 30 days and it's day 32, he's not considered a borrower anymore. And here, by the dry cleanup, he's always going to remain a shomer sacha unless he said to the owner that I don't want to be held responsible anymore, come pick up your suit. So only then. But if he would just say gamartiv, I finish, he would still be considered a shomer sacha. Answers the Gemara, loy, that's not true. If he said gamartiv or his job was over, he's now a shomer chinam. But what the Mishnah is saying is, if he would say like this, bring me the money first, and then and then you can take your item back, then he'll remain a shomer sacha. Why? Because by saying that, he's benefiting because he wants to hold on to the suit until he gets paid. So by saying that statement, reversing that, then he would still be considered a shomer sacha, and he wouldn't lose his responsibility of a shomer sacha. Aval gamartiv. But if he would just finish up the item and don't say anything, or he would say, I finished cleaning your suit and didn't say anything, what were you going to say? Shomer chinam. He becomes a shomer chinam. So if that's the case, Aditani, why does our Mishnah say the kulim she'amr tula shechav avimayis? Then only then you become a shomer chinam. Nashmi'inim gemartiv v'kolshkein tula shechlach. Let it just say Mishnah just say that even if you didn't do anything, you just said I finished the item, you become a shomer chinam, and certainly tula shechlach you'll become a shomer chinam because. By Bekul Shulcha and Havi Mois, you're basically saying, I don't want to be a shomer anymore. Of course, you'll become a shomer chinam. So tell us the more novel case of just not saying anything, you become a shomer chinam. Certainly, if you say that I don't want to be a shomer sacher anymore, you become a shomer chinam. So why does our Mishnah say it this way? Answers the Gemara, Tula Shulcha. I would think you're not a shomer chinam at all. Because if you said, Tulesh lecha, take yours, and maybe the guy was saying, come pick up your suit. I'm not a shomer, not a shomer sacha, not a shomer chinam, nothing. So that's what I mean. Shomer chinam nami lehava. Kamash malam. That's what we're saying it. Kamash Malan, that's what the Mishnah is saying. So basically, and I'm just going to go through the next couple of lines of Gemara rather quickly because it's basically saying the same thing. The idea is like this, that you take on a responsibility, you remain with that responsibility as long as the term of your agreement is. So if you're a dry cleaner, you remain the responsibility of a shomer sachar as long as you're cleaning the suit. But once you finish cleaning the suit, you get lowered down to a shomer chinam. And unless you say, you reverse it and say, listen, I'm holding on to your suit until you pay me. Oh, so you're benefiting from holding on to the suit, then you will still remain a shomer sachar. And the borrower...
Just to let you know, years ago, I gave my car in to be fixed just mechanically by Inwood train station. There was a mechanic there, a Jewish mechanic, and he did the work. And then when he was finished, I delivered it to his lot inside. He finished the work. I was at work in Manhattan. He took the car, I didn't know, and he parked it in the Inwood parking lot at the end of an aisle in the public parking lot. It got smashed. When I came home, I saw it. He said, well, that's not my problem. I did the work and I put it in there. I go, I gave it to you in your shop. You put it there and at the end of an aisle. He goes, well, I don't want to pay. I said, you know what? Go ask a Shaila. I let him pick a Rav. He asked a Shaila, called me up and he said, I'll fix your car. It's my problem.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Because I didn't tell him to go put it in a public lot.
Right.
So he was still responsible, even though he finished the work.
This is exactly the thing. And in fact, he probably was going to hold on to the keys to the car unless you paid him. So that's...
Of course he does. Yeah, of course. I couldn't get the keys without that.
He's still considered, right, a shomer sachar. Very fantastic. Very good.
Yeah.
My life was Shani. Hun ba marmei ma kamer vina rami masni adol tnam kulum shom tul shkha ba havi moy shemechinam hu gadin legmartev. V'minu mol shloish lach shlach meise chayv chamish shemechinam amar apam rachid leishon al shik shlab tzakmei shilta alach mei shilta pata. Okay, we're going to start from ibay lahu. What the Gemara right now, what happens? You're a borrower. Oh, if you borrow somebody's car, right? You borrow somebody's car, you're automatically responsible for anything mishap that happens, any oinus that happens, right? So if the car is carjacked, you're responsible. Now, let's say you said, I'm borrowing it for 30 days. And after 30 days, so Rafram Bar Papa said that after 30 days, even if you did not return the car, you don't have that label of borrower anymore. You go down. So how far do you go down? Do you become a paid watchman or are you considered an unpaid watchman? There's a big difference because if you're considered a paid watchman, so then you're still chayiv if the car gets stolen. But if you're an unpaid watchman, then you're not responsible if the car would get stolen. So that was the question. When we say that after the borrowing term, so now you're no more a shoyel. You're not considered a borrower, but are you considered to be a shomer shacha, liable like a paid watchman? Or maybe shomer shacha nami lehave. You're not considered a paid watchman. You're considered an unpaid watchman because you're not borrowing it anymore. You're just busy trying to figure out a way to return the item. Amar Meimer said, Mistavra, it makes sense to me that potam shoyel v'chayev kishomer sachar. You're not a borrower anymore. You're like a paid watchman. Hoyel v'nehene mahava mahana hava. Since you benefited by borrowing it, so therefore you're still going to remain a paid watchman until the owner gets his item back. Tanya kavosda Meimar. The Brisa gives proof to Meimar. And we're going to go through quickly. A guy buys, let's say he buys items from a gift shop. And what his idea was that he's going to bring it to his new kala, right? And show, buy a set of dishes to his new kala, and that will be a present. But he wasn't sure if his new kala would like what he picked out. So he told the store owner, if my future wife likes it, then then I'll pay for it. But if he doesn't like it, if she doesn't like it, So, but the fact that she sees that I had intention to give her a gift, so I benefited from that. I'll return it, but I'm going to pay you. I'll give you according to the amount of benefit I had by being able to show my kala how much I care about her. The truth is, but I'm returning whatever you gave me. So Benensu, and something happened, a mishap happened, Bahalicha, as he's going to his kala's house, Chayiv, he's liable because you don't know, maybe the kala is going to like it, and therefore you're going to have to pay for it. So it's yours. Bechazira, when he's on his way back, his kala didn't like it, and he's on his way to return the item back to the store, potter. He's potter, because it's an oinus, it's not his fault. He's only like a paid watchman. So therefore, you see, it's almost like he borrowed something to show his wife, but now he's bringing it back. The lending term ended. And what does the Brisa say? He's not a shomer chinam, he's like a shomer sochar. So we see that when your lending term ends, your borrowing term ends, so then you don't revert to a shomer chinam, you revert to one step lower as a shomer sochar. Says the Gemara, Ahu Gavra, the Zabin Lechamora, Lechavre. A person bought a donkey from his friend, right? He didn't pay for it yet, okay? The idea was he's going to make a flip. He bought the donkey, but with his intention was to sell it somewhere else. Amalei, so he told the person that he bought it from, I'm taking it to a certain place. Even Davna, if I resell it, if I can make this flip and sell it for a higher price, mutav, then I'm buying it from you. But if I don't find a buyer, I'm returning it back to you. So I want a free a refund, like an Amazon refund. Azel, he went and bought it. He couldn't resell it, so he wanted to return the item. As soon as he's coming back to return the animal, a mishap happened. So also the comment Rav Nachman says, Chayiv, you're still a borrower until the owner gets back his item. You're still considered a borrower. Eisvei Rabbi Rav Nachman. So Rabbi asked Rav Nachman, Rav asked Rav Nachman, Nensu b'halicha chayiv v'chazara patam neishu k'neisus sacha. When the borrowing term is over and you're returning the item, the Brisa says that any mishaps, you're not held liable. You're not a borrower anymore. So when he realized that nobody's buying his donkey, so he wanted to return it to the seller. So he wasn't borrowing it anymore. So why is he held liable if on the way back a mishap happens? We learned that once you are on your way back to return the item, you're considered a shomer sochar. Amalei, chazor dahai halichahi. When this guy is returning the donkey, that's still not considered as if he's returning the donkey, because it's almost like he's still going to sell the donkey. My timer, svarahu, I'm thinking logically. Bechazirasi, as he's returning the donkey, he's coming back to the seller. Ili ashkech lezabunin miloy zabna. If he found somebody who wants to buy it, if he could make a flip on his way back, and he somehow gets lucky and somebody wants to buy the animal for more than what he committed to pay for it, so then he would sell it. So he's really not considered as if he's returning the item until actually he gives the animal over to the seller. But on the case of the Tala, when she did not like the dishes, so when he coming back to the store to sell it, to return it, so even on his way back, he's ready, not a borrower anymore, because he knows I'm only have one direction, to return it to the store owner. In that case, the Brisa says if a mishap happens on the way back, you're potter because you're considered a paid borrower, but not a paid watchman, but not a borrower. Now the Mishnah, Shmar li v'esh melecha. We learned in the Gemara that if I say I'm watching your item and you watching my item, you're considered a shomer sochar. So here is a very important question. Va'amai, shmira b'balamhu. What the Gemara is saying is, and this is a hard concept, not a hard concept, but it's just, you have to just know that it exists. If I'm watching somebody's item and at the same time he's mowing my lawn, okay? So he's working for me and I'm watching his item, so I'm not held liable. You're not held liable. That's called shmira shobayu, because that if the guy is working for you, you don't have to pay. And the pasuk says, "In bol of imoy lo yishalei. So here, if each one is watching each other, so at the same time, both of them are working for each other. So how could you call them each a shomer socha, who each will be held liable? But we know that if you're watching something for somebody, and at the same time the owner of the item is doing work for you, you're not liable to pay. So how could you reconcile our Mishnah? Amar Papa said, you have to say the pshat of our Mishnah is the guy said, I'm watching for you today, and the condition is that you're going to watch for me tomorrow. That's the way it is. And he's watching, and he's going to watch for you tomorrow. So you're not watching at the same time. So therefore, you're considered a shomer sochar. And now the Gemara says, "Tamar Baran Shmar Li Bashmar Lecha, Shli Bashli Chir, Shmar Li Bashli Shli Bashmar Lecha, Kula Nas Hashem Zach Zeb, Amai Shmir Bavami, Amar Papa, Damalei Shmar Li Hayim Bashmar Lecha Malcha." That was the source. Basically, a brisa said the same thing, and Rav Papa explained that it doesn't mean that they're watching the items at the same time. I'm watching his, he's watching mine at the same time. That wouldn't work. It's only if we're watching on different days. I'm watching on Monday, he's going to be watching my item on Tuesday. So then I'm getting paid for watching his item. So I am considered a shomer sochar. Says the Gemara a story. Hani ahole, there was these spice makers, okay? They like people who sell detergents, okay? Anyway, they're in a business, and they're working together in a factory. One of them would bake bread for lunch for all of them. One with a worker, they went round robin each day. One of the workers would bake bread for them. They said to one of the workers, "Go bake us a bread. We need to eat lunch." He said to them, "Watch my coat, and I'm going to bake the bread." Adasa, and he left his coat there. Poshaba, and they were negligent. Here the Gemara says they were negligent. Ignav, and the coat was stolen. So us the Kamei Papa, they came to our Papa. Are the other workers liable for the coat that was stolen? Chayvinu, he held them liable. So that, because he's a paid, they're paid watchmen. They're more than a paid watchman. They were negligent because he's doing work for them. He's baking bread for them, so that's as if they're getting paid, so they should make sure that his coat is not stolen. Why are they held liable, the other workers? This guy is working for them at the same time that they're watching his coat. And we know that once the owner has a relationship with the watch person, he's not held liable anymore. So it seemed that Rapapa paskined wrong. Ichsef, so Rapapa was embarrassed by this. At that time, when he was supposed to be baking the bread, he was drinking beer. He wasn't baking bread. So therefore he wasn't held. Therefore, he was held. The other workers were considered to be held liable because he wasn't working at that time. He was just drinking beer. He's supposed to be baking bread. So the Gemara says, if you hold that, why was Rav Papa anyway upset about the whole thing? If this all makes sense, Pshia Babalim would be potter. That's why he got embarrassed. He thought the worker was working for them, and though he's negligent, therefore he was embarrassed. Ella Man Yama, that even then you would still be considered liable. Amai Ichsev, why was Rav Papa held embarrassed? The Gemara says, it wasn't his time to bake bread. But they told him, step up to the plate and you bake the bread for us. And he said, in this reward, that instead of you paying me for baking the bread, if instead of you paying for me for baking the bread, then I'm going to watch your coat. So now, the Ase, we go back, Ignev. When they came back, it was stolen. Not that they were negligent. Also, come to Papa Chavino. Amar later about Papa. Hashmir babalmi. Ichsef. They got back. So the Gemara just playing us with a story that Rav Papa nearly paskined wrong on holding workers liable for a coat that they're supposed to watch for a coworker as he's going to bake their bread. Now, the fact that this coworker was baking the bread, that means he's doing them a favor. So basically, he's paying them to watch his coat. And when they watched his coat, it actually was stolen. There was no negligence involved. And Rav Papa held them liable. So they asked Rav Papa, how could you hold them liable? We'll end over here. How could you hold them liable? Isn't there a rule that when you're watching something, and at the same time that you're watching something, the owner of the item is working for you, you're not considered a shomer. A shomer has to be totally separate. I'm watching something from you, and I have no shaykhs. No, you're not doing anything for me. So here, this guy was baking bread for them, so he's actually working for them, and they're watching his coat. And the Torah says you can't be held liable if there's some connection between the owner of the item and the watchman. If the owner of the item is working for the watchman. So the Gemara answers, well, here we'll stop. That he shayta shichra havishasa. He wasn't really breaking the bread. He was actually drinking a beer. So therefore, it turned out that Rabbi Papa held him. So therefore, he wasn't really working for them. So they're just considered paid watchmen. And since it didn't happen at the same time, and therefore a Papa turned out that he paskin correctly, that all the co-workers that committed to watch his coat, are held accountable for the fact that his coat was stolen. Okay, we'll stop over here.